and welcome everyone to another exciting episode of Indie Spotlight. I'm Michael, your host, joined by fellow host Matt, and today we have
Hey,
with us
how's it going?
Model316, who's one of the coolest, most awesomest 3D designers we've ever had the pleasure of talking with. And we're really excited to talk with him tonight and have him share some of his secrets and techniques with us and all that great stuff. So without further ado, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little about who you are and what you do.
My name is Jay. Model316 is what people know me as, but I am a sculptor. Originally, I was a traditional sculptor and model maker for film, and I've worked in film. I've worked in museum displays. I've worked in video games, toys, product development. I've worked for just about every large media company, major media company, from all the way down from Viacom movie studios all the way to Disney.
That's awesome.
I'm a technical developer. That's really what I as if you were to give me a job title, so I'm a technical developer. So I figure things out. So
Nice.
Sculpting is just one kind of aspect of things I do. I also figure out how to develop products and how to make things work, to procure materials and sourcing, manufacturing methods and things like that. So it's all over the place.
I was gonna say you're a bit of a jack of all trades, really. It sounds like.
Yeah, and that's it's kind of it sounds like a jack of all trades, but a lot of this stuff is related. It's just it's knowledge of materials and methods.
No, that makes sense. Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty good. That's kind of like me with my experience with a lot of the printing industry, so I can really understand that.
Yeah, and then I've been doing it for quite a while, so my skill set grows each year just because I get I get introduced to new things, or I have requirements of being pretty much forced to learn new methods and new techniques. And
well, I mean, chief among them is, I'm sure, 3D modeling and design. It was probably not something you started out with in your career, kind of like you were saying.
No, I started in the very early '90s. Right, I actually quit college. I got recruited by a film studio, and I got recruited. And I quit college right about at an associate's degree, but at that time, I already knew that I wanted to do this. And in fact, what I wanted to do originally was special makeup effects for film. So even like schlock horror movies, Return of the Living Dead and Friday the 13th. That was what I grew up with. And so I wanted to do those kind of cheesy special makeup effects. But even when I was in college, at the most, there was like very early versions of AutoCAD, and it was primitive. So we're talking like 386 and 486 computers, PC. So it was very, very primitive. 3D at that time, it was an actual thing. A lot of it at the time was still POV and a POV ray. So you're actually building models by plotting 3 coordinates to plot a point in space. So if you remember like if you've seen 80s movies where they had like wireframe 3D models, that's what it really was at the time. It was still right in there. And it made a big jump in the 90s to where you started having 3D Studio Max started to really become a power software, and Alias owned Maya. It was very much in its early stages. AutoCAD, I think, when I really started to use AutoCAD was around version 12.
Oh wow, okay. And how long was that?
Oh, that would be like mid to late 90s was when things actually started. I don't know, what age group, but if people who were actually at a certain age to be able to, kind of chart technology through that time, from the very early 90s to the late 90s, there was a massive change that happened with computers.
Oh yeah. I remember.
Massive. You went from 286 to like the Pentium 4s and the what was the one after the Pentium 4s? They went to like the Did they have did they have a Pentium 5?
I think so. I think it
I
was
think they
Pentium
did.
5, and then that's
Yeah.
when they started the first generation,
The
second
dual cores.
generation.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
there was
I
a massive change in computers at that time.
Interesting. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Think about how far you've come from that from then.
Well, and I never wanted to do 3D modeling and digital. I
Really.
wanted to just do traditional, but I had no choice.
Yeah, because didn't around that same time, a lot of the industry started pushing towards rather traditional. They started pushing towards more CGI because it was a lot more cost effective, right?
Not in the very beginning, but it still allowed for things to be done that would have been very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Like the first really good CG that I think of is like Terminator 2,
Mm.
the first Jurassic Park movie where they
Yeah.
actually
Yeah.
did that's when it became like, wow, you could really do something. Before that, you had
Tron.
movies. Yeah, but I'm even thinking like just before that when you had movies like
Really.
Titanic, which
Mm.
was the ship was a physical model that was a 40-foot long model,
Mm-hmm.
and then but all the people on the deck on the long, like the far shots, all the people were animated. The water was animated, but the ship was actually real. So
Oh,
there was a switch that kind of happened in there where it became like, well, yeah, we can actually start to animate more. Now, my opinion now on it is that way too much is animated.
oh yeah.
That
Yeah.
is I'm in the same boat. I kind of feel that certain things can make it work. Like Tron made it work, even though the first one looked really wonky, and you were like, what am I looking at?" kind of thing. To where Tron Legacy, you're like, okay, this is a lot better, but at the same time, you kind of feel it was a little too much CGI for what they were showing. But the way that they blended it all together was really nice versus the remake of the thing or a prequel to the thing where there was just way too much CGI and everybody could tell it, and it was just like this is kind of craps on the original or the 1980s version and the original 1950s.
Well, when I really started to look at CGI differently was very particularly the Transformers movies, and then by the time it got to that Superman movie where they just destroyed the city for 45 minutes, I was like, this is awful, and this is terrible.
Yeah. Yeah, that movie was great up until that point, I thought. No, I
The
get totally what you mean.
Transformers were never they were never this whirring
Mm.
pile of moving parts. That was just, it would have been better if they would have made it like Transformers, but of course they can't. Once they get a technology, then they go crazy.
Well, I always think that the physical, the practical effects always hold up better in the long run.
The Star Wars movies still look good, even though you can see some of the compositing. The models look fantastic, and that's why I got into doing this. It was mainly because of the first 3 Star Wars movies. That I was never, I was a Star Wars junkie, but for the actual techniques of filming them, I never really cared much about the story or anything. Of course, when I was a little kid, I did. But as I grew older, it was mainly just an appreciation for what it took. Back in the 70s, people don't realize that they had CNC controlling. All the cameras were motion controlled for doing the film shots. So they would put the cameras on these motion control machines and actually be able to repeat their camera movements. So this has been going on for a lot longer than most people realize. I mean, there was 3D printing and CNC back in the 70s.
I can kind of see that, but the cost effectiveness and like how big and clunky it probably wasn't necessarily home level or consumer level. So they
and it was
production.
Yeah, and it was artificially kept expensive and kept out of the consumer's hands.
Oh, that's a little messed up.
Well, there's a number of reasons for it. And right now there are 3D printers that can print metal, but they're still extremely expensive, and they don't need to be. But it's more things like the ATF is worried about guns. These companies like Disney and toy manufacturers are petrified of 3D printing.
Oh my god, yeah, that's interesting. I never
I
thought of
can
something like
really
that.
see that because that would put a lot of the you could say a lot of the control into the consumer's hands rather
Too
than
much.
the business side.
And
Well,
then
Well,
you've
you
already
remember,
you
got
say too much,
copyrights and
but
stuff.
to me that sounds just right.
remember what happened with CDs and digital music in the 90s. Everyone went insane. Before that, you had cassette players and everybody was making copies of albums. So it's not like it was something new, pirating music. It was
Yeah,
being done constantly.
yeah,
But all of a sudden, everyone started to realize with the proliferation of computers how much easier it was going to be.
Yeah, yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, you raised some you've made some good points, of why you have to be careful with that kind of stuff.
Well, hey, I was on the forefront with a lot of that. I was one of those kids downloading music, didn't think
I thought you were gonna
anything
say
of it.
downloading printable guns.
Oh
I
no, no, no.
was like, damn,
No,
you're one of those kids, huh?
if I had that kind of ability, I'd probably print swords. That's my
Dude, when they
weapon
can
of
print
choice.
swords, then yeah, call me when they can. Can they print swords?
Yeah,
If they have a
I don't
metal
know why
printer,
you
I
would
could see
want
it.
to. You can
Yeah,
make
it
a
would probably
forge
It'd
in
be
be
your
strong enough,
backyard.
right?
You can make a forge in your backyard and go make all the swords you want. I mean, I have
Exactly.
I have CNC equipment in my shop. I can make any gun parts I want.
I bet you can make
I
easily. I bet you can make like cosplay swords and stuff pretty easily.
oh sure, yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
interesting. I never
definitely.
thought about that.
But I mean, that's why I say like I can definitely see what Model's talking about like consumer or companies and corporations being a little worried about it. Because like when Napster was out, man, like I still remember the whole Metallica thing happening and like how pissed off people got with that. But they did raise a point. It's like, look, we're putting our own stuff into this. Sure we have a record label, but this is our music. We're the ones who made it, not these people, us. So whenever you're downloading a song, you're taking money away from us. It's just they could have gone about it a lot better way rather than the way Lars did take care of it.
Well, and to be completely fair, it ruined the record business.
Yeah, yeah, but some
Bands
people
don't
say
make
that.
any money off.
Go on.
I was just going to say, bands don't make any money off of albums anymore. They make money off of touring. So it decimated the music industry. There's no doubt about
That
it.
that's why I say like I
But
can definitely see what they're talking about. But at the same time, having that more freedom rather than having your record label control what you need to make and what you do, it actually probably allowed for more freedom of expression towards the artists themselves.
well, and I would say rather than blaming the consumer for doing something that most people are going to do. You're sitting there looking at a free song and you're going, yeah, I'm going to listen to it. But the record labels did nothing proactive, and it's kind of a similar position right now that these other companies are like Disney and stuff. They're not being proactive and figuring out a way to make this stuff work for them. It's we're only about 5 years away from 3D printing being so common that almost everyone has one in their house. So then you're going to have another whole industry that revolves around kind of like the Jetsons. You have that little magic box, and let's say you need a drinking glass or something, or you need a spatula. You just go get the model file, and your printer prints one for you. That's what's going to eventually happen. You want a toy for your kid, you go online and you buy the 3D model of the toy and you print it at home. That's what's going to happen.
Man, that's wild.
I can kind of see that. I can kind of see that because this way it gives them free access to however many they want. They just have to pay a certain fee, like let's say a month or even just a one-time fee.
Well, they'll have to do it because if they don't, they will miss out on that revenue because people are going to put models out there anyways. So they can put officially licensed models and get a little bit of make a little bit of money for their product, because I am not someone who says that everything should be free. I mean, these companies do spend millions and millions of dollars on development, and it is a property. They own it. There's a lot of people whose jobs are dependent on it. So you can say it's a greedy corporation, but there's a lot that goes on. There's manufacturing jobs all along the way. There's delivery people. There's printers doing boxes and packaging, and so there's a lot along the way where it's not just a company being greedy and trying to keep all the money. So
Mm-hmm.
No, yeah, that makes a lot of sense actually. Well, I love the design. I love that we're getting this firsthand look here at the design process, man. This is cool. Now, you worked on a previous
yes,
figure for us before as well.
yeah, we've got jack irons, and we're going to be kind of making a change here in how we do delivery because of the proliferation of 3D printing and the quality where it's at now with resin printing. We're going to start offering a print-on-demand service with another company that I'm partnered with called Nerd House Minis, and
Mhm.
nerdhouseminis.com is their website if anyone wants to go and look at the quality. But basically, what we'll have, this is going to allow us to do this a little more cost-effective. To Once the digital files are done and they're in a store, you can change the scale. So you could offer a wargaming miniature size, or you could offer a collectible figure size, or you could have a 12-inch figure if you wanted one. And really, it's all coming from the same model file. So you can't really fight the technology. It's here, and in a lot of cases, it's good. So if I were to sculpt this character in clay, which would be my preference, um, that's the size of it. Once you make that mold, it can only ever be that. So you can't in digital. You can just scale something. You can make it big. You can make it small, and it's no extra. It's really no labor whatsoever.
I mean, much more
So
versatile. It sounds like.
Mm-hmm.
well, and we had our issue, that with the post office damaging, and by doing this, and by the way, the post office denied that claim.
Oof, of course.
So but by doing this, we can now show a store, an online store, a link to the product, show the actual cost, show the shipping. Because what I do, I don't have a store. I do a contract. I do a custom kind of thing, and I send it out. By doing this, everyone, even the customers, are going to get protected, because now we can send the post office and go, here's the online store with Nerd House Minis LLC. This is where it was
Mm,
purchased. This is how much it costs, and it was damaged. So
okay.
all of these things, this is going to be it's going to be beneficial to everybody, and then hopefully it will. Well, I do know for sure it's going to make it more cost effective for people.
And I'm
Uh,
sure they have have had a lot of experience in the business, so they're going to be able to get it all done really quickly and with efficiency, and just be able to do it all really with top quality.
yeah, they're running like 10 printers in their shop.
That's
So
awesome.
they just run their printers all day and night. And
That's
so
amazing. Yes, I'm super excited about that, and we'll be able to as you said, bring the cost down to everybody, including the customer, and so it'll be beneficial for everyone in the long run.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
yeah,
very
so what
exciting.
we're working on here is we're working on a second head for this character. It's going to have the heads that can be swapped out
Oh, that's
of
cool.
the figure, and then we'll just do something with a magnet where you can pull that head off and replace it with the head, which is essentially the helmet. And we don't have to mess around trying to have a hollow helmet that fits over anything. So it's all going to work out
Look
great.
really nice.
Hey, ahoy there,
Now,
Admiral.
real quick, because I was just thinking of on how awesome Gabe would actually look for somebody just using a custom thing
You
for
mean Barb?
Warhammer 40K. Would the magnetization switching of the head and the helmet work for small miniatures as well, or would
Oh,
there need to
absolutely.
be
It's
something
used.
different?
No, it's used all the time. Magnets are used
Oh,
all the time
perfect.
for war. Yeah.
Dude, that's
and
awesome.
for terrain and things like that. So yeah, it's very common to do that.
That's gonna be
Very
really
common.
cool. I love the. I actually hadn't seen. I'm not sure. Yeah, because like that, the scene that's nice. Or what I'm trying to say is, it's nice to see the difference between the helmet version and the non-helmet version. It's it looks really nice. The variation there.
Well, it's always interesting taking a 3D character and translating it into, or I'm sorry, taking a 2D character and translating it into 3D, because I find out very quickly whether or not an artist's drawing works in 3D. So, for
Yeah,
instance, I'm having to make some allowances to make this helmet fit over that big bulbous nose, and
that is funny.
so
Yeah, you're right.
it's
There's some liberties taken, artistic liberties taken for sure.
almost
I'm
always.
sure. Yeah.
Back when I worked for Viacom, which was the parent company of several large other channels like Nickelodeon. So we did a lot of cartoon characters into 3D, and at that time we were doing them with clay. So I did a lot of the Rugrats characters, and you talk
Uh,
about those were so difficult. I did Beavis and Butthead, which
oh wow.
which we actually gave up on a project because it was so difficult to get a Beavis and Butthead that looked good in 3D that
That's
we were like,
hilarious.
well, we can do this, but we're gonna have to work at this for a long time. Now with that, that's a good example of where 3D really works, because it's a lot less labor intensive to make changes.
Yeah. Yeah. If you make a mistake or if you need to go back and fix things at the end, it's way easier, I'd imagine.
Yeah, and adding and subtracting clay to an armature is just very time consuming. Whereas you can do a few clicks and start getting things added to a digital sculpt.
Not to mention
But
you're working with money when you're working with physical material as well.
yeah, well, yeah, you're wasting materials.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Certainly. Yeah, and then just the other raw materials that are involved. Traditionally, like silicone for making molds and stuff. Silicone's very expensive. Very expensive.
Oh my god. Yeah. I remember
Good
talking to
high
you about that a
quality
while back.
Good high quality silicone is about $200 a gallon.
Yikes. Now we had a question in the chat I wanted to address real quick. Someone's asking if there's going to be a Jack Irons figure. We actually do. We have the Jack Irons figure up on the store already. It's actually ready to go, and you can pick them up. We have some ready for pre-order. We also have a few damaged ones we put out for that are a little bit cheaper. So if you want to just be able to fix it yourself and glue it back together, you get a little bit of a cheaper one. But let me go ahead and post the link here so everyone can check that out. The first one you did turned out really awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't have been happier with it, man.
And the Jack Irons figure is going to be in the Nerd House Minis store.
Yeah, so guys, you'll be able to have a chance to pick it up there as well, and that's probably where it'll ultimately, once that gets settled, that will be where its final housing is. It's just up on our store now until that deal gets settled, which we're very excited for.
Yeah, I'm doing some catch up, playing some catch up here this next couple of weeks. I got in the weeds bad. This COVID thing has killed me with shipping and suppliers, and I was just to try to get things, to order materials and have them shipped here. If they don't immediately have them in stock, then you're waiting for them to get it from their suppliers, and it's just and this is the first time I've ever dealt with not being able to get things ordered and shipped to me. So my next 2 weeks, I'm just basically going to be catching up on characters and figures and getting this Nerd House thing resolved. I have about 5 or 6 characters that are going to immediately go into that Nerd House mini store. And then when Barb goes in, I've got one more after this, and then I have one that's getting ready to get finalized. So I've been doing a lot of digital sculpting lately, more than I ever thought I was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. I mean, well, how did you kind of first get started working with so many different people in the indie comics community?
Well, I just started to introduce myself to people basically, and said, "Hey, I'm a sculptor and a model maker, and if you're ever interested, I'd be more than happy." The the indie comics thing is difficult. There's a lot of guys who are just trying to get their first book done and get through that process and the cost and build a fan base, and so it can be cost prohibitive for people to try to get figures done. But I do think that this partnership that we're working on is going to help with that a little bit, because
I
for me to make silicone molds and do reproductions of figures adds a massive amount of cost on
and
top
time,
of
yeah, cost time and all that.
yeah, and it's really not cost effective for me to do unless I'm doing a lot of them.
Right. This makes it much more cost effective for you, for us, for the consumer, and it's just going to be
Yep.
really cool, I think. And so you've worked
And
on
it's
others, like you've worked on Regina, I believe.
Regina's going to go into the store.
Nice.
Who else have you worked with?
Pineapple Pizza Man is going to go into the store.
Nice.
I do have a couple of Tim Lim's characters. I haven't talked to him in a while, but that is an option too for those to go in there. And then I've a lot of other characters for people in other types of hobbies, wargaming and things like that.
Oh, very cool.
And I have a number of I have 2 projects going right now that I can't even go public with. So.
Oh wow, too early in the works, huh?
Well, it just kind of the way this year started off with Corona. In February, I was thinking, oh, 2020 is going to be the busiest year I've ever had. And by the first week of March, I was like, uh-oh, 2020 is going to hurt. And nothing went on all through the spring, from March, all through spring, all through early summer. And just within the last few weeks, things have all of a sudden just picked up. So, I think the comfort level is getting back, and people are starting to feel like it's time to get going again. And
yeah, and especially getting these figures, man. I know a lot of these indie creators are trying to, like you said, get things back going again. And what better way than kind of with something cool like this, man?
Yeah, and people do love, people love collectibles. They love figures. Even people that aren't really in it for the hobby aspect, which there is the collectors, but then there are also the crafters, so the people that like to paint and things like that. And then there's the war gamers, and there's all different aspects of the hobby. There's sculptors, so it's you're looking at an interesting market. And whenever people come to me and they're thinking about that they want to do a character, I always tell them, look, just it's going to cost you some money. There's no way around it.
Right.
The software that I have to use, the computer that I have to use, is very expensive. I have to keep the electricity on. The the printer that I use is $4,000 printer. All these I have to eat. I need to have a roof. I need to have a shop. Where I can do all this stuff. So it's like it is not
have time to make it all work.
Right. And it's not cheap to do, and for indie creators, a lot of times I do take less, because I'm definitely not driven by the money. I just want to have enough. That's all I'm concerned about. So doing the 3D printing is going to make that even easier, because it is cost effective to do that way. There's some things that you just can't get away from. I can't get the silicone and the resin distributor to sell it to me for less. There's no way I can get around that. I can't get the post office or UPS to charge me less for shipping. You know what I mean? I can't get the electric company to give me a free month of electricity. There's just some things you can't get around. So all of this is going to, in the long run, is going to help indie creators to get these things done. And I always tell people, if you make a good figure, you're going to sell it, because it may not even be your fans. So don't try to just do something that you think, it's going to be only people that read the book. Look at making a really cool, good quality figure, and then you've got you've got painters, people that like to just paint, and figure painting is a huge hobby. I think wargaming. I've heard a figure before that wargaming is like 4 billion, but then there's also the painting, and so with all of that is all these different companies that are manufacturing hobby paints like Vallejo and Games Workshop and Monument Paints and Reaper Miniatures, and all the paints are expensive too. So people are putting a lot of money into that side of the hobby where they don't ever play a game, they don't ever read a comic book, they just see the figure and go, oh, that looks cool, I want to paint that. So that if you make something nice, your chances of selling it are very good, and to multiple multiple groups of interests.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you also do painting for figures as well?
I used to paint professionally for. I was a demo painter, and I would paint for catalogs and stuff like that. I don't do a lot anymore.
Not too many commissions or anything of that nature.
If someone comes along and they specifically request something and they're willing to pay for it, I'll always do it.
Nice.
I love to paint, but with all of the other work that I have to do, there's only so many hours in the day. I need to have like 8 days a week, 30 hours a day. That would satisfy me, but there's nothing we can do about that. So typically, I don't do any painting for myself anymore.
No time.
Every now and then I'll do something like, I'll paint something on a Twitch stream or YouTube stream or something like that, just for fun, but more for the channel. I don't get to do a lot of it.
Yeah, you have a channel yourself, right? Let's plug that.
Yeah, over on Twitch, I stream under.
Oh, on Twitch.
Yeah, on Twitch I stream under Gridlock Sys, SYS. So GRIDLOCKSYS.
Let me put that up on the screen here.
Okay.
Yeah. How do you like to? Sorry, go ahead, Matt.
Well, I was just going to ask if, since we were kind of talking about like the different types of hobbies with sculpting and everything, have you ever thought about doing custom like Gundam style, or like to where you print out more of the pieces rather than the whole figure itself?
It's a matter of what I have time for. So if there's a market or there's a customer for it, it's definitely something I would consider, but I have to prioritize. I know a lot of people say, oh, I've just been so busy. But like these last few weeks, I've been sleeping at the shop most of the nights and just like working, and then sliding out of my chair onto a camp roll, a foam camp roll, sleeping, and then getting up and then crawling back into my chair or going out to the shop or something. So, sometimes it does get that busy, and you have to get the stuff done in order for you to get paid. So sometimes, sometimes I blow it too so I estimate something and say, oh, I should be able to do that in about a week. And then it's like 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, I'm like, oh, what happened? Or other things get up. You get a week delay on some materials. You're like, well, I should be able to start casting in 2 days. 2 weeks later, you still don't have your materials. So, those things happen too.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the norm, but it does happen.
Okay.
So I would like to do, there's a lot of things I would like to do. I would like to do, I would really like to make customized or detail kits for models. I don't know if any of you are scale modelers, whether it's cars or spaceships, Star Wars or anything, but our military, military aircraft and tanks. But
yeah, that was more of my thing when I was younger.
There's a big market to do aftermarket detail kits, like, do a full engine for a tank and all the interior. I would love to do stuff like that. I just don't have time.
Just staying too busy, man.
And scale models is really one of my original passions. So when I was a kid, I built scale models all the time, and a lot of that was driven by the Star Wars movies. Just looking at the Millennium Falcon and going, "Oh man, who made that? It's incredible."
It is really cool once you learn. You watch as a kid and then you learn later, or maybe you learned at the time. But I learned later about the model stuff, and when you find out, whenever it is, it kind of just fascinates you. Like, wow, how does something like so small look so amazing when it's on the screen? Like, it is pretty incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Like the level of detail and everything. And I always thought that they looked better. Like you kind of were saying earlier, they look better even than CG even a lot of times.
Oh, no question. Yeah,
Mhm.
I can barely watch the new movies, even the prequels. Like Attack of the Clones, which is not just a bad Star Wars movie; it's a terrible movie. And then the CG is just so
Oh,
flat and
George.
poor George. Although I
Right?
will say that those are probably a little better than the last three that Disney did. I would say.
Yeah, I'll have to agree with you there. I'm not a huge fan of the new ones myself.
I watched the first of the sequel, and I was just like, all right, I saw everything I needed to see. I'm done.
Yeah, I just wish they had more screen time with the original characters altogether. That's my big gripe with it, really.
The missed opportunity more than anything,
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
and one that they can't ever get back.
Which is so
That
sad.
that is very true.
Yeah,
I
yeah, I know
I
that's
mean,
true.
at this point, they should have just, if they plan on redoing some kind of Star Wars, it should probably be kind of what Knights of the Old Republic did. Went way back into the past, but instead of possibly the past, do a future. Maybe 100, 200, 300 years into the future. Who knows?
1,000
But I mean, just
in a
what they
future
did and
far,
just
far
saying the
away.
things for it, I was like, ah, jeez.
Yeah,
I,
yeah. We could
Well,
probably have a
I
whole
think,
Star Wars podcast. Honestly.
yeah, I think Disney will probably just void those movies from canon. Is my
Yeah,
guess.
maybe they'll do a reverse Legends. And they'll be like, no, wait, these aren't Legends after all. This is
It,
really what happened.
it was
it
an
was all a
alternate
dream.
universe.
Yeah, it was a Jedi mind trick.
Luke just wakes up, in the next one. He jars awake, and
Oh
it
my
was
god,
all just a terrible dream.
that was horrible. I'm glad that's over with. Oh, it's funny.
What can you do? And to some degree too, a lot of us were very young, seeing those movies, and we're expecting to see magic like we did when we were little kids, and it may not be possible.
That is very true. Maybe for the younger kids who saw this sequel, they might like it.
Yeah,
I wouldn't doubt it.
absolutely.
That's perfectly fine. It's just for what, even because I remember being probably 9 or 10 when the first prequel came out, Phantom Menace, and I was like, all right, this is pretty cool. It's kind of the same thing. Everybody's kind of not liking it because a lot of the CGI, but you know what? For me, that CGI looks a lot better than what I'm seeing on TV and games.
Yeah, there's
Which
there's
one?
no question.
For Phantom Menace, and that was, I think, 1999 or 2000 when it came out.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't look too bad. You know, people give it a lot give the prequels a lot of harsh words, but yeah,
I mean, I
I
understand the Jar Jar Binks stuff. I
oh no,
understand that because
that's
even
just
as a
not all
kid, I was just like,
yeah, that will
"What's
never
up with
be.
that?"
Yeah, yeah, really. But that's pretty awesome to hear, like kind of where your origins came from your early love of Star Wars and movies like that, and kind of how it kind of led you into doing what you're doing now.
Hmm. So you were saying that you were doing like originally wanted to do horror style. What horror movies really like influenced you for that?
Oh, there's a collection of like 80s horror movies that I still will watch to this day. The Thing. John Carpenter's The Thing.
Always a classic.
The Reanimator movies.
Mm.
The Hellraiser movies.
Oh wow, those are good. Yeah.
Specifically Hellraiser 2.
Okay.
Because that whole scene of that lady coming out of the mattress, I was blown away by that. And now you look at it and there you can really see the flaws. But at the time, and then there were just some really classic makeup effects movies like Fright Night, Waxwork. There were just a Pumpkinhead, fantastic 80s horror movies that it was all foamed latex appliances and cable controlled and air bladders and bloodlines and all kinds of stuff like that.
Practical effects.
Oh yeah, fantastic too, and I just love them. Evil Dead movies, all of that stuff is great, and I wish a lot of that. I wish more of it would come back. I think eventually it will.
It's a really kind of interesting point you bring up Evil Dead, because you look at Evil Dead original versus the remake, and you can totally see the difference in film style and filmmaking there. Like the new one's so heavy on CGI, where you don't really get that with the original.
Yeah, a lot of movies do the CGI blood, and it's awful. It's awful. Even movies like the John Wick movies. Sometimes you can tell they're doing practical blood with squibs, and then sometimes you can tell that they're doing digital, and you can tell.
Yeah, you can.
Now, if you're a casual viewer, you don't really pay attention to it, because I've done that before, where I've gone into a movie and I've not been overly analytical about it, and I've just like, well, that's pretty good, and then later you find out something was like, oh yeah, I guess that wasn't too good. So. And a lot of times you don't notice unless someone brings it to your attention. But if you're being analytical about things, I just like to, it's the same way with like indie comic books. You can have a really great story, and then you can get away with a stylized art that's not as realistic or maybe not as refined. Or, I think, to me, that's always better than having fantastic, beautiful art with no story. Because I would rather like high quality, high end art. I would rather just have it in an art book. Or
if there's no story, then why bother? If there's no good story, why bother reading in a comic, in a sense?
Yeah, or make it like a how-to book on drawing. Make it more of an educational piece, and because without that story, it's very hard to get emotionally attached to anything. You have to have that element of your imagination kicking in a little bit, and it's harder as an adult to do that. That's why kids, we've all been at that age where, like, one day you're playing with toys, and then one day you're like, I don't want to play with this. It just all because we change. Mentally, we change. You can remember as a kid, maybe you had an action figure and you were playing on a tree, and it was like the base, and you could come up with all of these, get lost for hours in making up, with minimal things. You may have just like a truck and a driver, and you've got this whole storyline going. It's harder to do as an adult.
True.
Because we lose part of that. Now, some people are able to generate it, because for most of those things that kids get really involved in, an adult somewhere came up with the concept and generated the world.
True.
So it is still possible to do, but I'll give you a good example. Do you remember, being a teenager when you got a new CD or an album? And the feeling it would give you, listen to it, you just wanted to turn it over and replay it, flip it, play it, flip it, play it. But when's the last time you got an album where it really gave you that kind of feeling?
Yeah, there's fewer and far between, that's for sure.
Yeah. Now young people are still getting albums and they're still feeling that way. It's just as we get older, we don't react to things as well. So
that's a really interesting point.
Yeah, so You do. I think, in looking at, you can have, I think you can have both. You can have a great story and you can have good artwork. Um,
But a story's got to come first.
I
In the
I
long run.
think you almost have to have a story, don't you? You can't have a bad story. Um, I mean, I guess you could have like a one-off that has like really nice art, but
You won't keep people. You can bring them in with the flesh jar, but you got to keep them with a good story if you want to come back for more.
Well, I think that's how it is with the story in the first place. That's why when you look at more of like, you could say fine art or like gallery style art, it's more about the picture because that's what they're trying to have you hook onto. And the actual realization that you're actually doing with art is you're questioning certain things about the art. Like, what is it? What was the artist trying to intend with this? What's their meaning of it? What's the meaning of it to you? Whereas with comics, you can still do that with the art, but any kind of story needs to be hook you with something, the art or like catchy thing with it, like the synopsis. But the sinker is your story needs to be good. First and foremost, it needs to be good to be able to keep them going. I'm personally not a book reader, and that's partly why it doesn't really capture my interest too well. Where if I just go read history, I'm like, damn, this is a lot of interesting things.
I think that's something that's kind of plaguing like video games and stuff,
How
where
do you
it's
mean?
well, the games have never been more technically proficient, as far as what the technology will allow. Uh, but like that last what is it, Left for Dead, that everyone got so mad at because they killed the main character?
Oh, Last of Us.
Or
Yeah.
Last of Us,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's what it
Yeah.
is.
So everybody got so furious because they killed that main character. Although, like, if I didn't play the first game, I don't play video games that much. So I didn't know anything about the characters. I looked at the screenshots and I said, "Wow, that looks really, really nice." But look at the reaction to the game. All that work that went onto the graphics and the visuals and the sound. Everyone hated the game because they blew the story.
Well, it's interesting is actually when the game came out, it still got like incredible reviews. So what I find interesting is even despite all the leaks and all that stuff, it still did amazing. So I mean that
Sure.
shows you the quality really was there.
Well, and we have this because of things like social media and the ease of communicating between one another. You get that fast feedback on things where
Mm.
before you would have to call a 1-800 number, a complaint line, or email the fan club or something to complain about something. Now it's like you can complain instantly.
Oh my God, yeah, yeah, yeah. It's funny you mentioned that. I remember I heard someone say something about there was recently kind of speaking about your art, music again. But someone released an album, and they're like, there was within 30 minutes of me releasing an hour-long album, someone had put out a negative review,
Right.
and it's like,
Jesus.
so yeah, you're right. It is that instant feedback, really.
And now you're getting early leaks. Stuff gets
Oh
leaked
yeah,
early, and
yeah, yeah. The internet has its definitely had its pluses, but it has its negatives as well, making it tougher
Mm-hmm.
for artists like that. That's for
and
sure.
the other thing that indie creators now have to worry about is IP infringement, and on top of that, just their general artwork. It's a big thing now that even these big studios that have their creative departments, all those people are going on ArtStation and DeviantArt, and they're getting inspiration from other artists.
Oh
And
yeah.
a lot of concepts are people are going, hey, that looks pretty similar to some stuff on my ArtStation. So as
Yeah.
more things are put out there, that's going to happen, and that kind of it's related to some of the other discussion we had talking about trying to protect your properties when it comes to things like 3D printing and stuff like
Mhm.
it's not an easy thing, and it is
Oh my
something that's
God.
going
Yeah, I
to be
bet.
showing back up repeatedly.
Yeah, I bet that's something you've had to deal with, just having to figure out all that stuff and how that works.
Oh, I've been dealing with things being stolen for years.
Hmm.
I had let's see, last year I really have backed off posting things online and on Instagram and on Twitter and stuff like that, especially work in progresses or my own personal stuff, because people are just stealing stuff. I had a guy go to my Instagram and just take a bunch of products and start remaking them himself and selling them. And he was
Whoa.
he was following me on Instagram. I was in his Facebook group. He
Whoa.
sent me a link to his store, and so I messaged him. I was like, "Dude, what are you doing?" And he
Oh my
was like,
god.
"Oh, yeah." And I was like, and then he said, "Well, can I license them from you?" And I was like, "No, I'd rather you didn't do it." But you can't stop people. You really can't.
Yeah,
But
that's
last
cool.
year I had something that was stolen from me that ended up somebody made a Kickstarter for and made $300,000. So
Jesus Christ, dude.
so I've stopped putting work
There's no
like
way
my.
to seek legal action or anything against people like that?
Well, how much are you going to spend on lawyers, right?
That's a good point.
You know,
And do they even have money to pay out in the end, right?
right?
Uh,
Have they spent the money? Have they
yeah.
had molds made, or it's
Yeah.
it'll cost you $125,000 to do a good lawsuit. So,
That's a lot of money.
Oof.
and then in 2019 too, the Supreme Court made a really bad ruling that hurt small creators.
Really?
So it was generally considered, if you put notice of copyright on your stuff when you put it out there, that was generally respected by the courts.
Mm-hmm.
But the Supreme Court made a ruling in 2019 that really it made it hard for a small creator to just copyright without doing an actual official copyright through the patent office.
I say as
So
opposed to an unofficial copyright, which is you usually get or used to get when you just create something normally.
yeah, you could create, and you can still do it. I can create something. I can put copyright Model 316 and put it on that, and that serves as notice that my intention is to let you know that this is mine, and if you come after it, I may uh, I
Seek
may
legal action.
push action. Yeah, seek legal action
Mm-hmm.
against you. The thing is if I have something on my Instagram, like a character that I drew, and let's say someone from the Disney art department happens to see it, and they make something that's very derivative of it to the point where it's obvious that it's mine.
Mm-hmm.
Am I going to sue Disney?
Shit. Probably
Right?
not a
And
good idea.
and so Disney has lawyers on staff. Right?
Oh
Disney
yeah.
doesn't have to go get a lawyer and pay him a check. They have lawyers on staff. So they
Mm-hmm.
send a email to the legal department and they say, "Hey, go and send a letter out on this."
Jeez.
Whereas I have to go find an attorney. I have to pay a retainer. We have to go through all that. So it starts immediately costing me money. It doesn't cost Disney any. They're paying for those people to be there regardless.
Wow.
So
That's wild.
and so a large company can take your characters. Um,
Jeez.
they can take your stuff right from you,
Oof.
and a bad judge, uh, it
Let it all
happens.
go.
It does happen. So yeah, I'm starting to be a lot more careful with stuff until it's really finalized and it's out there, and then I'll make a bigger showing of that being a completed thing that's ready to go, and then try to really widely disperse it and put it out in a lot of places, not just a little bit, not just on ArtStation. I'll put it on Twitter. I'll put it on
Hmm.
Instagram. I'll put it all over Twitch and different groups like that.
Trying to make sure it gets out there with your name on it, essentially.
Sure, and
Yeah.
make it known that this is mine. This is
Yeah.
mine.
And that's not anybody else. Because yeah, I mean, clearly it takes a lot of work, and for you to put that work in, for someone to just take it like that must be really insulting to you.
Yeah,
I
I
would
spent
imagine.
6 months, almost
Oof.
every single day, working on that. It was a wargaming project for Terrain,
Yeah.
and I was gonna launch in 2 weeks, and
Oh,
they launched 2 weeks earlier than I had
oh,
planned to, and they had done
oh,
such a
that's so
shabby
screwed up.
job. They had done such a shabby job. They took the main part of my idea, duplicated it exactly down to the dimensions, down to the inch,
Oh my god.
and but then the rest of it they did really fast and shabby. But the main part of my idea was this, basically, like, it was based on kind of like a concept of Legos, but for wargaming terrain, where you had a base where you could just put all these different blocks to make your game board.
Kind of
And
like a customizable game board.
yeah, it had a 12-inch by 12-inch base plate that was keyed with squares. So all of
Hmm,
your other terrain pieces would lock onto there,
that's
like
cool.
like a Lego plate. Well, these people took that base plate and copied it exactly. Launched 2 weeks before I did. They made $300,000.
Damn, that's
So
nuts, man.
yeah, so I changed mine by changing the shape from having squares that locked, having circles that locked. I launched and didn't get anywhere with it because
Jeez,
it
dude.
was already well. And the better idea was what I came up with originally.
Yeah, yeah,
So
that's
then
unfortunate, man.
someone else.
Yeah,
So you do have to be really careful.
yeah, really. You never know who's out there trying to take your stuff.
A
It
lot
really
of
happens.
people, a lot of people
Yeah,
are. A
yeah.
lot of people.
I know Cody's had some issues with people on Amazon using his Jack Irons character for
Hmm.
products and stuff, and
Hmm.
Sure.
Do you
yeah.
have any advice for somebody kind of going through what you could say is more of in your field for miniatures or sculpting to help them with not necessarily getting it copyrighted, but making sure nobody can really like steal their ideas?
Well, you do have options if you want to file copyright. You can file copyright. I think it's $45. So it's not expensive to do. And but if you're doing a lot of small things, it's $45, $45, $45. Each one has to be done. You have to do your paperwork. And then it's understanding the copyright, trademark, registered. They're all different things. So, a trademark is going to be on a name, and then you have to actively produce products under that trademark. So if you stop producing products under a trademark for a certain period of time, that trademark can be disputed publicly and say,
Awful.
they've got a trademark on this, but they're not doing anything with it, and the patent office will release it back to the public.
Trademarks
So
aren't cheap either.
no, it's a lot more expensive to do, and actually, trademark and registered. There's a little bit more strict laws. Like, you can't just put trademark on something if you haven't applied for it. You can run afoul of the patent office legally if you just take something and put trademark on it and you haven't filed for a trademark
I
and
see.
paid the
Yeah.
fee. Yeah. So,
Hmm.
whereas with a copyright, you can throw that little circle C on anything at any time.
Yeah, that makes it helpful, doesn't it?
Hmm. Yeah, and the registered symbol is the same way, or patent pending. You see patent pending
Hmm.
stamped on things, and sometimes it will say patent pending for years and years and years, and because it can take 10 years to get a patent. So, but you can't put patent pending. Like, people will say that all the time, specifically like that word. Well, why didn't you put patent pending on it? Well, I didn't have a patent pending. Well, so what? Just put it on there. Oh no, that's illegal. You can't use a federal government symbol and wording to make a claim to something that you haven't done. It's not legal. So
Hmm. Yeah, I mean that's kind of just the same thing as like identity theft or check fraud in a sense. It's those same things.
Well, yeah, and if people are brazen enough to get away with it, someone's always going to try something. You know, it doesn't happen that often that someone blatantly takes something. You know,
Or when it
it
does,
more
it's
it
never
more
good.
often happens the other way, where you might come up with something, completely innocent on your part, where you came up with something and it was a great idea and it looked great and you put it out there, and then another company comes and says, hey, and they have something that was before that. That's a lot of times where people run afoul too, is you're not looking closely to see what's already out there. You're getting a little too close to someone else, and you're not gonna fight these big companies that have established brands and stuff like that, which makes it hard to come up with IP, because when if you think about it, not everything has been done, but a lot of stuff has been done. Yeah, you really have to come up with something unique for it to not have any characteristics of anything else. Because somewhere there's a novel, there's a book, a fiction, there's a comic book, there's a video game, there's a movie. Somewhere there's a toy that somewhere has ideas that you think are unique to your thing, but someone's already thought of it. There's
I
only
think
so many
South
ways you
Park
can do it.
actually made a episode all about that, where like they're trying to do certain ideas, and one of the
Simpsons
characters
already
is
did it.
like Simpsons did it,
Yeah,
and that's the
Simpsons did
whole
it.
episode. Yeah, I was like, that's kind of funny. They kind of
Simpsons
did do a
pretty much
lot of
has done
shit.
everything. Yeah.
But at the same time, even Looney Tunes did it.
Mm-hmm.
I Love Lucy did it.
Okay.
Other shows have copied other
Mhm.
shows because most things have already been done. We're
Mm.
just kind of taking it from other things and
Making a
reinventing
little
it
bit
for a
our
modern
own.
era. Mm-hmm.
Well, the big remember that movie Cloverfield? J.J. Abrams' big movie break, his big break.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
The big monster in that had all the little monsters clinging on the belly.
Mm-hmm.
That was from The Mist, Stephen King's
Huh.
novel that he wrote back in the 80s. That big,
Oh,
huge
that's interesting.
monster with all the clinging
Wow.
things. Yeah.
Isn't that originally
Nice callback.
like an old school Lovecraft or like a old school like horror writer idea too?
Very likely just derivative of, and somewhere
Mm-hmm.
someone came up with it originally,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, it's very difficult to get away from everything. For a small creator, I think if you're do your thing, do your characters, and you don't try to go too crazy, don't try to reach out and grab too much of anything else. In most cases, a small creator is going to be okay, because these large companies, they don't want to take people to court either. They're more interested in like Star Wars characters being on Thingiverse or Yegi or Shapeways, where people are going there and downloading 3D models. They're more worried about that.
Interesting.
Because Disney had a big issue with Baby Yoda.
Oh my God! Really?
Because the maker community went nuts. All of a sudden on Etsy, you have Baby Yoda this, Baby Yoda that, because they didn't have any products ready for Baby Yoda.
What a fool!
It was a strange thing, They introduced that Baby Yoda, and they don't have. I guess they never thought that was going to become, some huge
Popular
craze.
thing. Yeah. I thought it was a throwaway character.
Sure, in that week you have on Thingiverse, you have people putting up 3D models of Baby Yoda, and people are printing their little statues all over the place. So,
and they're like, we have
yeah.
nothing. Why?
Well, and then Disney went nuts and went to Thingiverse, and
God.
Thingiverse started pulling them all down. But that is a legit issue where, there's Disney does own that, and they were losing massive amounts of potential revenue from Etsy, and Etsy took all the Star Wars stuff down. There was a lot up there.
Man,
But
that's wild.
IP law is such a strange thing, because you can go to Etsy and you can see people doing like a big wood plaque for your game room that says like the New York Jets or the Pittsburgh Steelers or something, and that is illegal. That's copyright infringement. That's IP infringement. To take an NFL or a baseball or basketball team logo and put it on a piece of wood. It's infringement.
Damn.
And it happens all the time, right? You wouldn't take the Dallas Stars hockey team and take their logo and start printing shirts.
No, true.
Going out and selling shirts,
Good
but
point.
People think that they can make stickers and wood plaques, and sell them on Etsy. And it's some people say, well, it's a gray area. Well, that's not a gray area. A gray area. I'll give you an example of the way some companies look at it. If somebody hired me, let's say you hired me to go and paint a big scene on a wall for one of your children of all Disney characters. Legally, that is a gray area because you're paying me for my time and my skill. Now, let's say it's for your daughter and it's all Little Mermaid and stuff like that. Now, Disney looks at that as IP infringement. So if it's just me and I go and paint your kid's room, and even if Disney knows about it, they're going to go, blah. But if I start up a big company where I start like commercially doing kids' rooms, and all of a sudden I've got like a team of painters, and I've got company trucks, and we're painting Little Mermaid scenes in bedrooms all over the country, Disney's going to step in and go, all right, we let you go for a little bit. Stop. It is copyright infringement.
It's yeah, you're right. It's kind of like that Pokemon fan game that person. There was a group that made, and they made him take it down for that reason.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so
funny.
you can small creators can protect their stuff well enough. If someone's going to steal something, they're going to steal it. And you hope you get away without that really happening, because it is, unfortunately, it's one of my big criticisms with America is that the legal system is supposed to be accessible to the citizens, and it's been turned into a monster involving lawyers and backroom dealings and so much legalese in the language that it's not accessible for the average person, just from the cost. So, and because it's technically so difficult to navigate through a lawsuit, you're almost silly to try to do it without getting an attorney. But then you get the attorney, he's going to charge you an arm and a leg to do the lawsuit. So sometimes people they legitimately lose stuff that is theirs. So
yeah, and that's definitely really sad, and that kind of stuff happens.
Yeah.
Now there's a really cool book. I was going to say there's a cool book I recommend. I'll put this in the chat here. If you want to read up on some stuff, there's a cool Pocket Lawyer comic book for comic book creators. It's a cool little resource for people to check out.
Yeah, and I would imagine doing comic book characters in particular. There's so many comic book characters. I mean, if you even tried to sit down and name them all, you'd have to be a real like comic book fan, very knowledgeable to try to get all of them. But you're talking about going back into like the 40s and the 50s.
Oh my God! Thousands of characters.
And then if you want to include all of the indies, you're probably looking,
oh my God,
tens of thousands, potentially hundreds of thousands.
Oh my God! Yeah.
So how do you come up with
worldwide? Now you're into billions.
All the manga characters and all the anime characters. How do you really come up with something that nobody has ever done?
Yeah, it's pretty much impossible. Yeah, at this point. I mean, they I've heard that said that like Shakespeare's plays have like all the different variations of stories, and everything else is variations on that.
Yeah, and and as we progress and more media is generated, that becomes more of a case. There was a time when nothing had really been done.
True.
That there was a point where very little had been done. And as we go further and further throughout the years, as it stacks up, we do start to actually get closer to that point where everything has been done.
And at this point, it's
To
just
be honest, I
the
mean, talking about everything being done, I'm a little surprised there has not been a remake of The Birds yet from Alfred Hitchcock.
Are you sure there hasn't been?
Um,
Come on,
I
there's got to
don't
be some
think
sort of
so.
killer bird movie out there.
Probably a killer bird movie, more like Sharknado style, but I'm talking more psychological horror like that movie was. But
Oh, okay.
I
Didn't
think
they
since we
make
figured out what it was, they were just like, oh, that's just boring now. Algae infecting their brain.
yeah.
Whatever.
And
Meanwhile,
there's
someone like me was like, that sounds pretty dope. I mean, that's pretty nuts, but that would make for a great story.
and they've made didn't they make Rear Window? They remade that. Of course they did Psycho.
Yeah.
But the remake thing too is I watched the trailer today for Dune, and I just
Oh, they
wasn't
have a trailer,
feeling
huh?
it. Yeah, I just wasn't
Really?
feeling it.
That's
I
too bad.
didn't watch the original. My brother really loved it, but I never watched it.
I wouldn't say
I
they did
haven't
a
even watched
great
the
job.
remake for it, and to me, it's just okay, another remake. Cool.
Yeah, I wouldn't say they did a fantastic job on the first one, although it was David Lynch, so it's a very David Lynch style movie, which makes it cool.
Yeah, David Lynch has a very particular style, that's for sure.
Yeah, I watched the trailer today and I was like, oh, and it's another remake. Here we go. And then I was like,
Yeah,
it just had no. When it was over, I had no kind of feelings towards it whatsoever. I was just like, meh.
I think it's by the director of the new Blade Runner remake. Is that right? Okay.
You know what?
I
I'm
don't
not sure.
remember.
I'm not sure. That
Yeah,
wasn't
I
a
don't know
bad.
if you saw that one. Yeah.
That wasn't
Oh,
a
you
bad
did?
movie. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. Good fun movie. Good, good action movie.
I thought the last Mad Max was good. The Fury Road. I thought that
Oh
was good.
yeah. Oh, that's a great movie. Yeah,
And it's
love that
not,
movie. I hope they do more.
it's not that often that the remakes are good. They're usually pretty bad.
Yeah, you're getting lucky when you get the remake being good.
But enough with the remakes. Aren't there any writers in Hollywood anymore?
Nope. And that's the thing. It's and I think it all boils down to like the idea of they'd rather take the chance on something that they know will do well than take a risk on something that they don't know will do well.
Well, remakes are cheap. They
Yeah.
don't have to pay a writer. They don't have to pay anyone for a property. So it's cost effective to do remakes. They can look through their file cabinets at things they already own.
That's funny.
Or even things that they shelved long ago, and then just be like, you know what, slap this and this together, boom, we got a sequel. There you go.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, there are a lot of movies have been made like that where they were just abandoned and then they come back to them later. I think like the Bill and Ted's movie was like that. It had been shelved for years. And then it came out as a huge hit.
Makes sense because with John Wick bringing his popularity back, is like now's the time to bring that project back.
I'm talking about the original one. Like the original one was shelved.
Oh, really?
And, like it was early '80s where it was originally. Wow. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh man.
And that happens a lot.
And that movie is a classic. That's a cult classic right there.
Yeah, I am interested to see that new one a little bit.
I enjoyed it. Yeah, I actually really. I feel like I saw it. I thought it did justice to the original series. It's a fun movie.
Well, I kind of figured that Keanu Reeves would see how it was going, and if it wasn't going well, he would say, "We're going to abandon this."
Right, true.
I could see that too. And same thing with Alex Winter, because from what I know, he kind of left film after I think Bogus Journey, because he was just kind of tired of on how things were going, and he started getting into computers. So I think if he didn't like it either, he was just like, I'm out.
To bring him back in, you had to have been good, right?
Exactly. It had to have, like, for keeping both of them on.
Did he do anything after the Bill and Ted's movies?
I don't think so.
I
I
don't
honestly
think
I
so.
don't think
think
so.
one or two
Oh, really?
independents or big films, and not really main characters. Because from what I know, when he was interviewed by Joe Rogan, he got
Mhm.
really heavy into coding.
Oh,
So
that's
he
funny,
started
dude.
pursuing that for a good
Oh
while.
yeah, yeah. You're right. He's been in a few other things other than that, but not a whole lot. It looks like.
Hmm.
Wasn't he in Lost Boys?
Yes,
Oh wow.
Yeah,
I think that
I
was
always thought
Oh
before
he.
yeah, yeah.
Moonstruck.
There he is. Listed as
I
Lost Boys.
always, I always thought he was the weirdest looking nerd vampire.
Oh, that's funny, dude. Oh, that's great. Yeah. No, yeah, they're a great pairing, the two of them, him and,
Hmm.
and Keanu. Yeah,
To be
man.
honest, I think for them to have made a third, I don't think anyone else could have been able to do anything with it besides them.
Oh no, no, they have to. You couldn't do it without them. No way. No. But getting back to your modeling a little bit here, do you have any kind of projects that you might be able to tease us with? Anything that you have in the works here in the coming future?
Let's see. Let's see what I've got here. It's a good time to save this. I can bring up the
Good progress.
Jack irons.
Oh yeah,
So
that's good. Yeah.
Jack is gonna be parted out. The arms are gonna be separate the next time around.
Oh, interesting. That's a good idea.
So they'll just have a pin in a socket, and you put a little bit of glue on there, and
Okay, so pretty easy to assemble.
very easy.
That's good. Yeah. Yeah, and then the cape still having the cape on there as well.
Oh yeah, yeah, exactly the same.
Nice.
Exactly the same. Let me just find him here.
I love how the figure came out with every little detail. Just is so nice. Like one of my favorite details on it is actually the iron plating because you can see the little screws on the
Hmm.
different iron plating. It's like, oh man, that's one of the most iconic things about Jack is that iron plating along his arms and legs. It's kind of just the attention to detail that I find really cool.
It's a fantastic figure.
Yeah, it
So
really is. Honestly,
let me turn off
four
this.
4 inches tall, about I think.
Well, I mean, we can do whatever anybody wants to
Right, it's
do, but
true.
I suggest that just because it's a good size.
I want
So
a
here,
12-inch figure. That would be amazing, wouldn't
well, and that
it?
is something that can be done. If people
Wow.
decide, if someone decides they want to have a real big one, it
Cody
can be
should do that on
done
his
because
next campaign, dude. The Beast. Call it the Beast.
You never know,
well, he
he
could
just might.
he
Right?
could do it as a tier, and then
That's what I was thinking.
Nerd House can give him the cost directly for what it's going to
Cool.
be, and I won't, he just pay for that figure. No extra cost to make molds or anything like that, not to have it resculpted, but it's a fantastic figure.
And that's the other thing about, like you said, with the digital details like that, it gets scalable like that.
Yeah, and so hey, let me get this moved to one position because this is 5 million polygons, and when I rotate in ZBrush, it breaks up my audio when I'm trying to.
It's a lot of computing power.
Oh yeah, I bet.
And
Especially to run something like that, even as smooth as we were looking at it. I mean,
you've also captured again the details of Jack Irons, from the iron plating to the bullets in the hat to just the look of the face and everything. Really, just it's just perfect. I
Yes,
even think that the
that's
base is a nice touch, man. You did a great job with this one.
the skull with the steer.
Yeah, such a great touch.
Yeah, I really like this figure. So I think for the next round we'll make it detach at the arms here, right at the armor and the
Nice.
cloth, and then at the base,
Okay.
and then we won't have to worry about this potentially sticking out and shipping.
Yeah, that'll make it easier for the shipments
mhm.
and for
He's got
everyone
his cape
involved.
back there. But yeah,
Man.
he is a very nice figure. Let's see what else I've got here.
Yeah, we had to go with Jack Irons. We wanted to definitely start with Jack Irons. Hopefully, we can get some more going here after Barber as well. And what we kind of like to do something special with each one. Like this guy's got the cool base and the cape and stuff, and then the Barber figure has the detachable heads, and so each one might have something that makes them a little special and unique.
So
now, what do we have here?
This is a for a Twitch streamer, and I have to break this up into parts.
Wow.
Or a kit, but this is another really cool one. I just got to
those wings are gonna be really interesting to see 3D printed.
Yeah, so they're all separate. The wings are separate. The head is separate. The feet, and then part of the tail.
All little pieces.
Yeah, so that's a pretty in-depth model. Typically what happens. I had a little bit of freedom on this one. From what the artwork was, but a lot of times what I have to do is I get a piece of concept art and I have to try to capture that in the art, and that's part of the challenge that I enjoy.
Yeah,
is because it's one thing to just free form a sculpture, and go just start and then end up with whatever it is. I really enjoy the challenge of having a piece of concept art and having to follow that piece of art.
Yeah, no, I find that really fascinating. It's like that conversion from the 2D to 3D, and like you said, how do you make it work? And yeah, that's a really fun artistic challenge, it seems like. Yeah.
And here's Common America.
Ah, nice. I have a feeling this is gonna be a popular figure. Everybody loves.
She's
Common
waiting
America.
to be posed. Yeah,
nice.
She's just kind of waiting to be posed.
What kind of a pose are you thinking?
That's really kind of up to Tim.
So, okay.
So, but
yeah,
that is a
really
fun aspect of doing this, is trying to capture the look of the character.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, for what it even is, and even in the infamous T pose, I mean, it looks really good for it too.
Yeah, exactly, and I've seen a lot of art posted for that one lately, so that it definitely seems like you're capturing the feel of that character really well. Yeah, it's so cool. You worked with so many different indie creators, like you said with the Rags one. Oh, do you have the Rags one you could pull up here?
Oh yeah,
with the Regina.
Yeah,
that's always a fun one. Everybody loves Regina.
And I think he's going to do really well.
Oh yeah,
with Regina getting in the store for print, because there are a lot of people that like the comic book and the character.
And that's such an iconic pose too.
Sorry, you broke up real bad there. Ask again.
No worries. I was just saying that's a really iconic pose there too with the character.
This is from the artwork that Tim Lim did. From the cover. So if you, yeah,
that's a cool one. That's it's in the cover itself is actually based off of the Modern Warfare 2 design. If you ever remember the game Modern Warfare 2. So yeah, I've always loved that cover in particular.
And so this one's already parted out for a kit.
Nice. Okay, yeah, that's why the hand's off and whatnot. Hidden the gun is off and all that. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I know. I love the unicorn onesie too. I mean, that's probably one of the most iconic things you can say from Rags is that outfit.
Yeah, so that's a real cool figure.
Nice, man. Well, I think we'll start wrapping up here. We got probably at least another 5 minutes or so here, but Do you happen to have any other figures that you want to share off here with the stream tonight? Hmm.
Um,
Obviously, you won't want to show off too much. I know you, as we were kind of saying earlier.
well, if you're on Twitch, go check out the Gridlock Sys channel. Give us a follow over there. Twitch is kind of a different animal than YouTube. The follows are really important over there as far as
Oh yeah,
helping your channel grow and getting out to more people. So if you have a Twitch channel, you watch Twitch, Gridlock SYS, one word, Gridlock SYS. I stream a lot of this stuff live. So come on over there, say hi sometime. Other than that,
your thing up there on the screen, your Twitch.
Now, the last couple of weeks, I've barely streamed at all. I've had a couple of jobs going that I can't go public with. Normally, when someone says, "Yeah, you go ahead and go public," I'll stream a few times and actually do some of this work live on Twitch. And once I get out of the weeds here over the next week or so, then I'm going to go back to which normally I was streaming a couple of hours every night on Twitch. I'll start getting back to that again. I'm going to get some stuff caught up here and done. But yeah, come over and say hi and ask questions. I've been streaming with another Twitch streamer named his channel is called Art of Mike Disney, and we've been doing some little like basic ZBrush tutorials. So he wanted to learn ZBrush, so I've been going through some of the real basic stuff.
Very nice
of getting started, and yeah. So come on over and.
Well, that's awesome.
Nerdhouseminis.com. Check them out if you like. If you like to paint miniatures, they have great stuff going on over there. That is where Regina, Pineapple Pizza Man, Barb, Jack Irons, that Phoenix that I just showed you, 3 or 4 different chibis. I've been doing chibis lately. People are wanting chibis are getting popular.
Really,
a lot of chibis. Yeah, I got another one going. Here.
That's funny.
So yeah, there's a lot going on right now, and I'm just trying to. Once we're getting Nerd House is really geared up. They order like 6 more printers or something like that. So,
whoa!
And they're got their website. They're all together now, so that the store is all set up, and then you'll be able to just go there and order. It's really going to be good. And then for the creators, you guys, you'll basically get cost. So you can go there and say, I'm gonna need 10, I'm gonna need 10 for a campaign or something. So it's real promising. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, no, that's gonna be amazing once that gets all set up and everything is finalized. And yeah, I know me and Matt are super excited to get those figures up there.
Mm-hmm.
That's gonna be excellent. And thank you again, man. I appreciate you helping us get that set up and facilitating the deal. And we always love working with you, and I think we're always going to be going back to you as our go-to for any 3D modeling and design that we need. And we encourage anyone watching out there to do the same. As you've seen, he's worked with us as before. He's worked with a lot of the other indie creators out there. So, do you have a character that you'd like to get 3D designed and modeled and printed out as a figure or something like that? Definitely hit him up. And I know you're on Twitter as well, so
I'm on Twitter as Model316. So you can message me on there. My DMs are open. I think it does the request thing, but they are open, so you can DM me. Otherwise, if you follow me, send me a message. On Twitch, you can send me a message. I'll be more than happy to take a look. On Instagram, all 3 of these names are different. I need to consolidate that really bad. On Instagram, it's Flat Table Society, one word. And that has all... Flat Table Society, one word, has all kinds of stuff, different projects, gaming stuff, wargaming, indie comics, just streamer properties, all kinds of different stuff.
Awesome. Yeah, and I just put that up on the screen as well, so you guys can check that out. It does look like there's a lot of really interesting stuff up there.
Originally, the Flat Table Society was going to be of a kind of a consortium, and I still may do that in the future. I didn't want to go and make a Discord channel just for myself, because I'm already, like, my Discord is a mess. I have so many Discords that I'm in, I can't. I see the highlighted number for new messages, and I'm like, I'll never find them. And every one of them has 20 messages. You know, it's like, I'm never gonna find them.
Oh, that's too funny.
But what I wanted to do was like, I wanted to do a consortium channel where it was, instead of going into a Discord where it had 40 more channels, that it was a group, and each person had just their name as the channel. So you might have like 10 people in there, and it was all based on wargaming. So that's why the Instagram is under Flat Table Society, and it's kind of a takeoff on the Flat Earth Society. But because really, that's what we play games on. As far as miniatures, as far as miniatures go, one of my main passions is wargaming. I've never played war games. I've played Dungeons and Dragons a few times, but I've never played Warhammer or anything. I've worked for some of these companies. I've painted professionally. I've sculpted. It's more the hobby side, that I'm into.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah,
that's cool.
Do love the wargaming stuff.
Well, that's great, man. Well, as we wrap up here, is there anything else you want to share with everybody out there? Anything you want to say to people who enjoy your work out there?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think that pretty much covers it. I appreciate you guys having me on.
You're welcome, man. We appreciate you chatting with us and sharing us your interesting stuff. It was really cool to hear about your techniques and all the stuff you've got going on. Absolutely. And everybody go check him out on the social medias that he mentioned earlier. And if you're watching live, thank you so much. Please give us a like and subscribe. And if you're watching on the replay, we also appreciate that. And we'll see you guys next time. And everybody enjoy the rest of your